Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. This is Derek, and
Hey, this is Justin.
how's it going, man?
It's going all right. I feel like the week has been slow but fast at the same time. Yeah, we last Sunday we got the dog that we were fostering a forever home. So the couple,
Nice.
the couple was really really into him and was loving every second they had with him. So that day they reached out to the rescue, made the payment, and then the next day we brought him to his forever home.
That's got to be a little bit bittersweet, you know. Happy has got a forever home, but I'm sure you guys grew attached in the time you had the dog.
I didn't. Everyone else did, but yeah. So I guess it
You're
was.
a heartless bastard, Justin.
Yes, I am. I'm such a heartless bitch. I don't know. I can't. Dogs, for whatever reason, just drive me crazy. I don't know why. I think they're stupid, and I'm sure I'll probably get canceled. But I don't know. They smell. They piss everywhere. They're stupid. They beg. Yeah. My opinion.
Hey, you're definitely entitled to your own opinion. Nobody can say that, one way or the other. Might disagree.
Yeah, no, and that's totally fine. Like, I guess, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one.
Some stink.
Right, yes, and some stink. I don't know. I think it's just some triggeriness with dogs. So
Sure. I mean, we watch my parents' dogs every now and again. Well, just one of the two most of the time. She's 13 and pretty chill, and the cats don't mind her. But dogs are a lot more work than a cat, for sure.
yeah, I think that's my thing. And also, like, I love my girlfriend to death. She has such a big heart for animals, which I love and adore about her. But at the end of the day, um, we have too many animals. Like, there's definitely a limit in my mind.
Yeah.
Not that that means that I like them any less. It's a lot of extra work.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Definitely true.
But how about you, man? How you been? What's been up? How's your hockey stuff going?
We had a game last night. We lost 3-1. We were up 1-0, and then gave up three straight goals. One was kind of a little bit of a lucky goal, and then the other two we didn't help our goalie out very much. We gave up more than two breakaways, but they scored on two of them, and then we controlled most of the game. We outshot the other team by a lot, but just could not score. So it was fun, but it's frustrating when you feel like you should have won the game.
Right. Like, you were clearly the stronger team. However, you just couldn't clinch it. Type of feeling, maybe.
Yeah. And so the league that I play in, every year the teams are different. There's a board, and they draft the teams and try to make them as equal as possible. And this is my third year in the league, and I've heard from other people. Everybody seems to think the teams are awfully fair. All the games have been fun and competitive. We've won some games. I don't know where we are in the standings. I think we're in the top half. There's 7 teams. I think we're probably second or third place. I'm not sure. I haven't looked, but we've won more than we've lost up till this point.
That's still pretty good. So keep doing what you're doing, I guess.
The good news is we'll make the playoffs still. So
Yeah, that is good news.
everybody does. So
Oh, you sneaky fucker.
yeah.
Well,
it's been good. It feels a little weird recording on a Thursday night, though.
It does feel weird.
Lately we've been recording on Saturdays, which I know we will still do anyways. But
yeah, the side quest episode will be probably published either tomorrow or Saturday. It's been a little bit of a busier week, but yeah, it was fun to go back and listen. Definitely, I believe one of our, as far as editing goes, one of our smoother podcasts. And I think that had a lot to do with all three of us kind of knew the material so well that there weren't really any moments of extreme awkward silences or yeah, etc., etc.
I'm looking forward to getting to that point. I think as I've been re-listening to our show, I think I'm up to episode 7 or 8 now. I don't remember, but it's been fun to re-listen to things. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Sweet. Yeah, I probably will eventually at some point in time. But I think I'm good for now.
You probably listen to it enough as you edit things and everything else. So
yeah, that's true. Very true. But I guess should we get into chapter 1 from Deadhouse Gates here?
Yeah, I'm still not used to saying Deadhouse Gates. I still feel like we should be saying Gardens of the Moon. But yeah, before we do that, I just want to give a shout out. We've got 200 Twitter followers now, which is pretty fucking cool. It's it feels like a milestone, and I think it is. It's cool to have everybody we're friends with there. It's a good time. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. That's awesome to hear. I feel like it's been going up in spurts, and I guess it's nice to know that there's a little bit of a following for us, and I guess we're just gonna keep trying to do our best and make you guys giggle in the process.
Definitely. I had to beg and plead a little bit to get to 200, but we did it, so that's all that matters.
You are.
Basically, yes.
Cool. All right. Well, do you wanna hit us up these two epigraphs to start off the sub book of Raraku?
Will do. So the epigraph for the book: he swam at my feet, powerful arms and broad strokes, sweeping the sand. So I asked this man, "What seas do you swim?" And to this he answered, "I have seen shells and the like on this desert floor. So I swim this land's memory, thus honoring its past." "Is the journey far?" queried I. "I cannot say," he replied, "for I shall drown long before I am done." Sayings of the Fool, Theni's Bull. The epigraph for chapter 1: and all came to imprint their passage on the path, to scent the dry winds, their cloying claim to ascendancy. So that one for the chapter, after reading the chapter, I definitely kind of feel like it fits and makes some sense. I don't know how you feel there, Justin.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I think that it's kind of got a little bit of a deeper meaning, especially because it sounds like he's not really swimming in water, but maybe he's swimming just in sand that was like potentially like a dried up lake. He is not necessarily swimming in either sand or water, but more or less trying to convey the memory of what was the sea there. So I think that I think it's just kind of like a weird way of saying that even though it was once something, doesn't necessarily mean that it's forgotten.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So,
what do you say? You ready to start things off here for us tonight?
let's do her.
All right, let her rip, Tater Chip.
Section 1 here starts off with Mappo, Runt, and Icarium were standing on a wind-seared cliff. Mappo was watching a plume of dust race across the desert of the Pan'potsun Odhan. Mappo takes a bite of the emerald cactus, ignoring the venomous spikes as he bites. Icarium flicks a pebble over the edge. As Mappo picks his teeth from the thorns of the emerald cactus he was eating, he shares his observation of Icarium's die running. Icarium essentially tells Mappo that out here it didn't matter. Mappo tells Icarium that his blind grandmother wouldn't have been fooled by Icarium's disguise. Mappo begins to explain that there were eyes on them in Erliton, with a wry smile slowly fading towards Placid, as Icarium states that those who knew them in the Seven Cities, but those who don't, might wonder at them. but that would be all they would be able to do. Icarium moves on to ask Mappo if he saw anything down in the basin. Mappo describes something with a flat head, long neck, black and hairy all over, and then makes a crack at this potentially being Mappo's uncle. Continuing on, Mappo describes that there is one leg in the front and two in the back. Icarium follows along with Mappo's humor and says not one of Mappo's uncles, but potentially an Aptorian. Mappo nods in agreement to this and further explains that the convergence was months away, and Shadow Throne must have caught wind of what's coming and sent out scouts. Icarium questions about this Aptorian. Mappo explains that it's too far afield and is likely Sha'ik's pets now. Mappo rises, finishes his venomous cactus, and then cracks his back. Mappo explains that there is a waterhole out there. Icarium interjects that Sha'ik's army would be camped around that watering hole. Mappo grunted at the statement, and Icarium noted that the sheer size of his companion and asked Mappo if he could track it. Mappo simply says, if you like. Sensing some reluctance, Icarium asks Mappo if the prospect is disturbing. Mappo remarks any encounter with demons disturbs him and that he's a shy trell. Icarium admits that he's driven by curiosity. Both of them head back to their campsite. Icarium polishes and readies his bow and sword. Mappo takes down the tent and packs their utensils. When he finishes, he sees a waiting Icarium. Half-blood Jaghut and full-blood Trell head into the basin. So, I guess I thought it was really cool that, Icarium and Mappo, I know that we had some questions about Mappo in Gardens of the Moon. It was kind of unexpected to see these guys open up this chapter. I just always imagined them as some, just like distant characters that Rake had encountered in the past,
I don't remember Mappo being brought up, but I remember Icarium being brought up, but I didn't really remember much of the context around it, other than he was really old.
Right, yeah. I mean, from what I understand, it was when they were talking about the wheel, the Bohr's wheel, basically some type of device that Icarium had left in Darujistan. But they do.
Oh, that's right. It was almost like a calendar or something to mark the seasons passing or something like that, right?
Yeah, and they did. I know that in one of our episodes from Gardens of the Moon, we were like, "What is a trell?" Because it was briefly explained. Mappo being Icarium's companion, when Rake was kind of talking to Baruch. Essentially about this device that Icarium left.
Vaguely rings a bell, but not much going for me right now.
Well, you're listening
on Mappo
to the podcast,
before,
so you'll run into it eventually.
Haven't got there yet.
But yeah, I think what I'm enjoying so far is, and kind of one of the things that I wish Gardens of the Moon had a little bit more was kind of more attention to character design. So there was a lot of descriptions for Mappo here, and his eye color is sand colored. He's got massive canines. He's pale of skin but with robust bones, and he's got hair on the back of his hands. So
it's a good thing he's not blind then.
Was this a masturbation joke, Sir Derek?
Yes, it was.
So basically,
maybe we could get Circle Breaker in there for a circle jerk.
Right. Mappo no Fappo.
All right. That's the end of the show. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night. See y'all later. So, yeah, it was funny. Icarium, his description is he's wearing a Spirit Walker robe that is kind of like orange, which fades to a ruster color. He's got gray skin that apparently darkens to an olive color in the heat, and then long black hair that is braided. So, and I know that Mappo kind of makes a comment about Icarium's color fading. So I don't, and makes a crack that, even his grandmother would be able to see through his disguise. So I don't know if he just really has olive color and he just like painted his skin gray, or if this is some type of protection from the sun. Um, except, yeah, I guess I'm not quite sure how to make that out, but that's kind of what I'm going with.
I get you.
Um, Speaking of Mappo's uncle, I know this is meant to be humor, but I feel like in this moment in time, there's so little information. It's hard to form the link between Mappo and this Aptorian creature in like this moment. It's not really until a bit later that this joke pays off. Not sure if that was like his intention, but which even if it wasn't, it was still pretty clever. But if I'm following correctly, Mappo is a Trell, and Trell are they like a huge mane with black hair. So like I just kind of like imagine like like a lion mane, like super muscle, longer arms, and potentially like a species of humanoid animals with human characteristics, so to speak.
Huh.
Is I guess kind of like how I'm envisioning Mappo.
I guess I didn't really pick that up, but even with the descriptions, I still wasn't. I guess I didn't really form a very good like headcanon picture of what he looked like.
I mean, that's fair. That's a fair statement. I mean, I think it's just because I was, you know, writing a summary for the section, so I'm literally looking at every word.
True, and I guess maybe that would have been different if I was going over that section also, but maybe not.
Right? Yeah. I think I'm gonna make it something that I tried to do in this book, this podcast, is try to document whatever type of characteristics that I can so that I have more of a headcanon for these, which I think is just gonna make the story that much more vibrant, for me at least.
When we get to it later, I was like, when I read my last section, I was like, oh man, I hope Justin like draws a picture of this thing. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, I think I already know what you're talking about. Yeah, but the Aptorian, the way it was described, it had one front leg and then two legs in the back. So I almost kind of pictured some type of like biomechanical like tricycle, like those motorized motorcycles that have three wheels.
I did not know what the fuck to make of that. It was like, what's only got one front leg? Like, is this just a tripod? Is it just something with a giant dick? Is that the front leg or what? Like,
he runs with his penis.
Like, maybe I don't know, but I could not for the life of me. I'm like, it makes zero sense at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I mean, I like uniqueness in monsters and beasts, not just hey,
Oh
let's
yeah, for
add
sure.
let's
Not
add, two extra arms and two extra legs, and now we've got something original. So
yeah. I like seeing something different too, and this for sure was different. Just caught me off guard a little bit.
I mean, that's fair. There's definitely a lot of new information, which again, I'm just trusting the process. I'm trusting that all will be kind of revealed in good time. And in this moment in time, all I can really do is just kind of take the information that's there. Um, but we know that an Aptorian is some type of demon or scout of Shadow Throne. So it sounds like, based on the very brief conversation here, Mappo and Icarium are talking about some convergence of some kind. And at first, I thought the Talani Mass, but that answer is given to us in the next section. So, but my original thought when that was brought up was the Talani mass. But yeah, Shadow Throne has caught something and has sent out these Aptorian scouts. However, part of their conversation is that it appears that this Aptorian demon, so to speak, is astray from where it should be, which it sounds like they're speculating that it is the Sha'ik's pet at the moment. I don't know who Sha'ik is. I don't know if it's a person or if it's a clan or a group of people. Um, could be a city even. I know that they have an army and they've commandeered something from Shadow Throne is kind of all I'm deducing at this point.
I get the sense that Sha'ik is some type of a leader.
Right. I'm leaning more towards person, but I mean, nothing is really more than army. So
I think so too. I think, it's a person of some sort.
Yeah. I really loved, even though we've heard of Mappo and Icarium, but we haven't had any of their perspectives until now. So I thought it was an interesting duo so far with the very little that has been prevented. It's said that Mappo is shy and Icarium is curious. And I find this interesting. Are they just kind of like behind the scene types, wrecking and wriggling and stealth into places? Because you've got shy and you've got curious, which kind of work with together, but kind of at the same time don't work with each other. If someone's shy, they're not necessarily curious. If someone's curious, they're not necessarily shy. But from a stealth standpoint, could work very well together.
Yeah, I think curious. You're probably a little bit more outgoing, just because either you're going to ask questions to somebody or you're going to investigate on your own into something, which kind of outweighs that introvertedness, I guess, of a shy person.
Right. Did you get any vibes of the Aiel Waste coming into this section?
It felt more than that to me.
Ooh, how so?
I guess when I think like the Aiel Waste, it almost feels more like kind of bland colors.
Gotcha.
Because you always hear, when they're described, they've got their shofas and they blend into like everything. But this, I got like, it just felt like very like orange to me, which sounds stupid, I think. Like how it just feels like a desert you'd see in a movie.
Right.
Where, they filter it with whatever lens they use, and it feels like the cover of the book to me. That's the color, like that's what I'm feeling and thinking for this, what they're wandering around in.
I get what you're saying. I see it.
I don't know how to adequately put it into words, but I'm trying.
No. I think that I was able to relate to your description. I mean, I see the cover of the book, like especially those colors. So yeah. I know that they brought up Half-Blood Jaghut and Full-Blooded Trell. So it I guess more or less reaffirms some of the questions that we had, but again, still looking and waiting. We'll wait patiently, so to speak, for kind of some of the backstories to these characters, which I know will eventually come, but I'm just super curious. Like, I like these characters already, and this is just the first section, Even in their descriptions from Gardens of the Moon from Rake and Baruch, they never seem to be described as assholes by any stretch of the imagination. So I guess it's cool to see a character that was mentioned. You're actually reading about them, and they're still alive, right? Like, I got the sense that they were some ancient people that died out long ago. Is kind of like the tone that was set around them, because a lot of Rake being 20,000 years old, he's got a lot of experiences. So in that moment in time, it really felt like he was just talking about an interaction with people that he hasn't seen in a long time. And you kind of just get the feeling that they're not around anymore. And then to kind of just be juxtaposed to the first chapter of Deadhouse Gates. See, I did it of Deadhouse Gates, and you're immediately, in cahoots with these characters. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, it was. I well, if I remember right, when they talked about Icarium in Gardens of the Moon, wasn't it just? Didn't they mention that it was like a rumor that he was half Jagat? Like it, I thought I remember that they weren't sure on that.
I think
Maybe
so.
I'm mistaken, but
That does sound familiar.
at the same time, it was cool to meet some new characters, especially ones that I guess I didn't expect to meet because I figured they were dead, but also to have some familiar characters sprinkled in, and right here we only get Shadow Throne, but
Right.
somebody we're already familiar with to kind of bring the old and the new together in a way.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, this chapter takes place almost a year after the events of Jerujistan, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 1 or 2 years. So
At the beginning of the chapter, it says it takes place in 1164, year of Burn Sleep.
okay, yeah, and when we left off, it was 163
in Gardens. Is that what it was?
Yep.
Okay.
So you got to put it in perspective. Like, yeah, this is the next book. This is technically the first chapter in this book, but recognizing that a year has passed already. So there's a lot of things that will or won't be explained that may have taken place within that year. I mean, it definitely sounds like Shadow Throne is up to something, and it seems like it is revolving around this convergence, which we can talk about in the next section. But those are all I really had about this section.
Sure.
But
I didn't have anything else to add, I don't think.
Cool.
I'm ready to move on if you are.
Yeah, take her away.
All right. The stars lit up the earth in a silver light. Mappo and Icarium rested in some ancient ruins, the walls of the estate mostly eroded away. The Pan'potsun Odhan and the holy desert Raraku were littered with many long-lost civilizations. As they traveled, they had found evidence of a once thriving community, now swallowed by a windswept desert. Though from this holy desert came the legend of Drygena the Apocalyptic. Mappo wondered if the devastation that fell upon the city had added to the myth of death and destruction. Most of the ruins they saw showed evidence of a violent end. Mappo thought to himself, not all past can be laid at our feet, and we are no closer here and now than we've ever been, nor have I any reason to disbelieve my own words. As they entered the courtyard, Icarium went to a 6-foot column of pink marble and examined it. Mappo knew from his reaction he found what he wanted, but he asked, "And this one?" Icarium replied that the seekers are on the trail. They had divers following them, and probably more than one set, and it was probably Grillin. There will be others besides, divers and soul taken both. Those who feel near to ascendancy and those who are not, but still seek the path. Mappo asks if this is wise. In seeking Icarium's eternal goals, that they are headed into a shitstorm, and if the gates are opened, they will be swarmed with bloodthirsty ascendant hopefuls. Icarium says if such a path exists, maybe he will find his answers there too. Mappo thinks to himself that answers are not always what we want them to be. He asks Icarium, once he has his answers, what will he do with them? Icarium says he is his own curse. He has lived centuries, but has no memories. He is not able to judge his life without that knowledge. Mappo says others may consider it a gift, not a curse. Icarium says he does not see it that way. He hopes to gain the answers without drawing his weapon, but if he needs to, he will. Mappo says he may soon get to test that wish as there are 6 desert wolves following them. Icarium took out his bow and laid out 6 arrows and said desert wolves never hunt people. Mappo agreed as a cold shiver went down his spine. There were 6 wolves, but also one, the Ivers. It would have been better if it was a soul taken. Icarium said it was one of some powers to split into 6. Did he know who it was? Mappo said he had an idea of who it was. They waited in silence as the wolves crept closer, and formed a semicircle around them. Mappo says he knows who it is, but it is a shame he can't say the same of them. He is uncertain, but he has taken a blood-spilling form. Rolandorus hunts the desert, but does he hunt us or something else? Icarium asked who would speak first. Mappo said he would speak. Long ways from home, aren't we? Your brother, Treach, said it was in his mind he killed you. Where was that chasm? Dalhan? Or was it Lihang? You were divers jackals then, I seem to recall. They heard the reply in their minds. I'm tempted to match wits with you, Natrell, before killing you. Mappo says that it may not be worth it. With the company he's kept lately, he is out of practice, as he, Rolandorus, is. The wolf looked to Icarium, who said he has little wit to match and is losing patience. The wolf calls him foolish and says only charm can save them. Does he surrender his life to his companion's wiles? Icarium says no, and he even shares his opinion of himself. Rolandorus appeared confused and said that stakes must be high. Icarium says he grows bored. The wolf recognized who they were, and said they had no quarrel with them after all. Mappo tells Rolandorus to hunt elsewhere before Icarium does Tretch a favor. The divers said their trail converges on the spoor of a demon shadow. Mappo replies that it is not shadow any longer, but Sha'ik's. The holy desert no longer sleeps. Rolandorus asks if they are forbidden to hunt. Mappo tells him he can do as he please. They only want to pass through. Rolandorus says his jaws will taste the throat of a demon soon enough. Mappo asks if he would make Sha'ik an enemy. The wolf replies that the name means nothing to him. As the wolf walks away, Mappo says that the name soon will be known to him. So quite the interaction there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And again, just a flood of questions. You know what I mean? I don't know if you felt the same way, but I feel like it's playing on things that were kind of introduced in Gardens of the Moon, but like never really explained. And now we're seeing a little bit more of that come to fruition, like De-Ivers and Soul Taken. You know, from what I understand is that a Soul Taken only takes one form, whereas De-Ivers take basically whatever form they can or want, and many of them.
Yeah, I kind of thought that too, but I guess I'm not 100% sure. Can the diver, can it turn into any creature it wants? And, depending on its strength, it sounds like Rolandorus must be pretty strong if it can split himself or herself 6 ways into 6 different wolves.
Right, exactly.
But could it turn into something else beside a wolf? Like, I mean, could it turn itself into 600 tiny snakes or something?
Well, I think from what I remember from this section is that before Rylandrus, I'm not saying that right, am I? Yeah, Rylandrus.
I pronounced it Rolandorus.
Rolandorus. Thank you. Before,
I don't know if that's right. That's just how I said it.
No, that's fair. No, I mean, it phonetically works. Whether that's right or wrong, I guess. If any of you out there who have read this book and maybe done some research on that particular word, please feel free to share. But
well, just sorry to interrupt you again. Thinking about it from my Spanish class, I know the double L was like a Y. So do we have just Riandorus?
Maybe. I almost kind of like that. I'll just Rianderus.
You want to
Rianderus.
go with that?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. Unless we're corrected.
Right, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were way off about Krupp, so
I just got to like those episodes where where we were doing that.
oh god.
And that was fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna let it die.
Fair.
But yeah, I guess my big question about Soul Taken and D-Ivers, and again, I'm just gonna trust and be patient. But one thing that I'm immediately going to is like, how does one become a D-Iver or a Soul Taken? And it kind of sounds like it's a step below Ascendancy, kind of like if you were looking at it like hierarchically, like as a hierarchy. You've got what I'm in my mind is you've got Soul Taken, D-Ivers, and then you've got Ascendants, and then you have gods. So
Even then, you have elder gods too.
right, yeah, and are they on the same level as gods, or are they above? I mean, I'm assuming elder based on the one that we know about, Karul, is that I believe elder is maybe potentially either a forgotten god or a god that has just been around for a long time.
Yeah, I agree.
But this is what I mean. The convergence is purely about D-Ivers and Soul Taken, and apparently some type of gate. So I'm assuming this is a gate that I don't know goes to some type of I don't. There's so many possibilities, but some type of bouncer god who is like, yes, you're accepted, no, you're not, kind of a thing. Um, it almost seems, or maybe even some type of like calling or test for D-Ivers and Soul Taken to become Ascendants. Is kind of what I'm
I
getting.
don't know what's. I kind of feel like there's gonna be. Yeah, I don't feel like it must be like what a war is gonna happen or a big battle, and I don't, as whoever survives, do they become ascendants? How many are allowed to become ascendants? I don't know, but I kind of feel like that's where it's going. Is all these people are going to this convergence for a chance to become an ascendant.
Right.
Yeah, is the last one standing? Is that who becomes an ascendant, or can there be more than one? I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of what makes sense with the information that we have. Whether that's true or not, I mean, I guess I'm not too sure, but I'll be definitely interested to see where this goes. And I remember a really kind of cool, maybe smaller detail when um, Icarium finds the 6-foot pink marble column, so to speak, and it looks like there was a bunch of tiny, like what I'm assuming as like rat or some type of smaller vermin feet at the bottom of it, which makes me think that D-Ivers and Soul Taken have already visited this column and are maybe just kind of hiding out, and that's why he said like the holy desert has like come alive again, if that makes any type of sense.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even really think of that when I was looking at the pillar. I kind of left that detail out, that I saw markings on it. But
Right. But I mean, also, my thoughts go to, is this a dead house? I mean, they do call it a gate. The book is called Deadhouse Gates. Is this some type of, yeah, I don't know. I guess I
yeah,
really
I'm not sure either. There was a lot here. We only had 4 sections in this. What did we have? However many pages this were.
yeah.
So there were longer sections, but even the second section, we had a lot thrown at us, and I definitely have questions, but I don't necessarily know what questions that I have.
Right. Well, I mean, from what I'm gathering is Mappo and Icarium have a similar goal to that of the Ivers on the Soul Taken, clearly he wants answers, right? He wants answers from whatever is beyond this gate. So it seems to be some type of beacon for D'Ivers and Soul Taken, Mappo, Shadow Throne, Icarium, right? So I think that there's something going down there. I don't know if Shadow Throne is looking to. I mean, they caught wind of this clearly, based on the information that we know. So I'm wondering if maybe this is their attempt at recruiting something big and nasty to potentially help them take out, the Malazan Empire.
I was kind of feeling the opposite. I kind of felt like maybe they wouldn't want the competition, of another ascendant.
Ooh, yeah, no, that's a good perspective too. I like that.
We don't usually differ a whole lot on that type of stuff, but yeah, we are 180 degrees different there.
Uh-huh. Which is good.
We'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah. I just really like the sense of scenery in the beginning of this section. I can definitely imagine, very like desert, rocky, sandy type landscape with just little pockets of, broken buildings and towers.
Just ruins of civilization.
Right, to this very harsh environment, community now swallowed by the windswept desert. So is it holy because of the past? Because, they call out Dryjana, I'm not even sure how to say that, the apocalyptic. So is that something where he initiated or took part in the holy desert of Raraku?
I don't know. We don't have that info. I wonder what we're going to get in the next chapter. If it's going to be just another, because I mean, there's a pretty big info dump on just this one chapter with all this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sure we're gonna keep getting those.
Yeah, I guess I find myself relating more to Icarium, as far as this gate or whatever it is that they're seeking, because it kind of sounds like he's lost his memories and he doesn't have the ability to judge his actions because he doesn't remember them. So my guess is that he's seeking answers, which tells me that beyond this gate there must be some type of higher power that may or could potentially bring back those memories. And he's willing to fight tooth and nail for it. So that also gives me the sense of that not everybody who converges, so to speak, gets in, Yeah,
I didn't think everybody was getting in. It almost feels like a battle royale, doesn't it?
It does feel like that's what it's setting up to. Absolutely.
It's just it's just you and your buddies with like 4 TVs, and it's a 8v8 Halo party.
LAN party.
Capture the flag style.
Right, yeah. Exactly. But yeah, it's just there's so much good information, and while it doesn't make sense, some of it does. If you see where I'm going there, but it's definitely not enough. It's definitely an info dump, and it's definitely, I guess true to Erickson's style, where he's not really hand holding you in this moment, which I'm loving to enjoy so much more. It's like a gift, and just a surprise.
I mean, through one chapter, this book is definitely, I would say, a little bit more confusing through one chapter than Gardens was. Just because I was told what happened, but I don't really understand the significance of it yet.
Right, exactly. Right.
Because we don't really know yet exactly what it's building to, or maybe we do and we just don't understand.
Well, I mean, if it's, sorry to interrupt, if it's anything like, because I went back and I reread, the first chapter from Gardens of the Moon, and right there it had the answers to what was going to happen. We just, again, didn't know what any of that meant. So I really, based on that experience, I definitely think that he's telling us, but because we haven't read the book, we don't really have anything to, as you said, tie it to or make sense of. But I think that the answers are definitely here. It's just we definitely don't have enough information because we haven't continued to read the book. So
I got you. I'm sure it's one of those things, upon a reread, it would probably make much more sense, and we'd definitely pick out different things.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Which also just goes to show you that like once you finish with the series, like there's still so much more to pick out. Like I love books like that where, it's like watching your favorite movie over and over again. Like every time you watch it, you pick something out that you hadn't noticed before. And I love that kind of stuff.
For sure. I guess just on the topic of movies, two of my favorite movies would probably be Aliens and then Interstellar. And yeah, I mean, I've seen Aliens probably like 100 times easy.
Yeah, yeah.
And you still see things differently each time.
Right. And I think that's what makes the series so beautiful. But yeah, I guess I don't know. I feel like I should go through and pick apart each little piece of information, but without any context to it, I'm still in the dark, which I'm not complaining about by any means. I think that it's still such a wonderful place to be because that excitement, that anticipation of like what's next is still happening even though we're done with the first book.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will continue to happen in probably each of the books, I would think, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Did you now correct me if I'm wrong, but oh no, it was Trake. It was Trake the tiger. Never mind. I got Treach. I thought Treach was Trake. So never mind that. But yeah.
Well, yeah, and I know I kind of in your next section, I kind of did do a double take, but we can talk about that when we get there. But the one thing I did kind of like about Icarium is I kind of liked how he's kind of cocky. Just like I'm growing bored, and it's just like I got the sense he wanted to fight this thing, even though he said he didn't want to draw his weapon. I think he kind of did, or I felt like it. Like it kind of seemed like he was itching for a fight a little bit, just to almost liven things up a little bit.
Right. And I think that speaks to like his motivation to find answers. Like he's really motivated to be able to find answers or the knowledge of the things that he's done so that he can accurately judge his actions. I guess, like I mentioned, I'm curious as to what happened. What happened there?
I know. Yeah, I do too, and I think Icarium, and this just kind of popped into my head at the last couple minutes, but I think Icarus, and he flew too close to the sun, right? That was his deal.
Yep.
So did something similar happen? Is that why Icarium doesn't have memories of things in the past? And then I guess I don't have anything for Mappo as far as that goes, but just like the names Shaik, if we're even saying that right, love that name. Riandrus or Rilandrus, however we're going to pronounce that. It is another awesome name. I always like the cool names as I'm reading really any book series, because it's so much more fun than just you got Jeff and Daryl.
Yep.
Let's get a little creative here, and so it just brings so much more to things when you've got these names that just sucks you in.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I went on my own little tangent there.
No, that's great. I thought that was beautifully said. How do you I guess I'm sure you wouldn't feel anything terrible by any stretch of the word, but how are you feeling about D'Iver's being able to respond mentally? Some type of like telekinetic communication. Like I thought that was super cool.
Oh yeah, I did too. I mean, yeah, it was something that we haven't even brought up yet, but I like that a lot. Just and again, it'll come up again later, but it doesn't seem to matter if you have magical abilities or not.
Right.
I don't think.
Well,
That they're just project. Well, maybe it does. I guess I don't know.
I mean, I remember in this section, they could smell. They could smell like the spicy. Like it kind of sounds like Soul Taken and the Ivers have a different smell. From what I'm gathering, and the Ivers were giving like a spicy scent. I'm not sure what Soul Taken would give, but it when Rylanderus left, they could smell the spicy scent of the magic leaving. So, it very well could very well be like a corrupt situation, right? Like we don't think that he might be an ascendant. He may not be, but like I've never pictured him as somebody who, he's magical, but doesn't necessarily like that's it. You know what I mean? So I have a feeling that like this is similar.
I don't know what else I could do but agree with you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sorry. I'm sorry. It was, well done.
Thanks. Yeah, I just, again, there's so much info here that I feel like I'm just trying to find something to talk about because there is so much information, but again, there isn't any context at this point in time. So, it's just making really, really far left speculations as to what's happening, which is fun. It's interesting kind of see where this could go and getting imaginative and creative about, potential situations or throwdowns and characters and motivations and et cetera,
Right. On that, what scene really played out well in my head. Did you ever see the movie 300? I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, when I think it was towards the beginning, they're talking about the whatever basically like ritual they send kids out through to become, adult Spartans or whatever, and if they don't make it, they die. But you got the kid in the, I guess, kind of in the, what the hell's the word I'm looking for? Like a valley almost. It's tight, and the wolf comes creeping out.
Oh yeah, and the mountains.
Yeah. And he's got the spear, but like that's kind of what I pictured to an extent. You've got Icarium and Mappo, but they're just kind of standing there. But then I just pictured these 6 wolves coming out, just lurking and creeping out, and like these red eyes and making the semicircle and snarling, and it just really worked for me.
Yeah, it was visually beautiful. I can picture everything that's happening.
That's all I had to say on it. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah, I can. I feel the same way. I can visualize everything that's happening. So, but yeah, I guess I feel like I should have more for this section than even the previous section, but I feel like that's all I got.
Well, it sounds like we picked a good time to move on to your last section of this chapter.
All right. The Wiccan horse soldiers let out fierce war cries as they led their horses down the gangplank. The scene at Hissar's Imperial Harbor was chaotic. A mass of unruly tribesmen and women. From the harbor parapet, Duiker looked down at the scene with skepticism. Beside him stood the High Fist Prom Qual's representative Malik Rel. Rel was there to welcome the new Fist of the 7th Army on behalf of the High Fist. Duiker thought to himself that it was likely a calculated insult, but then silently amended that thought and began thinking about how quickly Malik Rel rose to position of power among Imperial players on this continent. 1,000 rumors were spread by the soldiers about the smooth and soft-spoken priest. Malik Rel's path to High Fist Prom Qual's side was a tale of mysterious misfortune befalling anyone who stood in his way. The political distress among the Malazan occupiers of 7 cities was as obscure as it was potentially deadly. Duiker suspected that the new fist would understand little of the veiled gestures of contempt. Duiker couldn't help but wonder how Coltane of the Crow clan would survive being the new fist of the Seventh Army. Rel was smiling, but not showing his green-dyed teeth, and asks the historian if caution is bred from distant culling. Duiker thinks to himself and relates the culling to the god Mael's lapping of waves. Thoughts linger to that of Malik, and how much he didn't like him already. Duiker finally responds by saying that the Empress doesn't notice him very much. Malik Rel breaks the sentence off as Malik starts laughing his ass off. Malik Rel finally gets out the question of Duiker ignoring history or ignoring history as it happens. Potentially a hint of bitterness for some advice ignored. Duiker is told to be calm as no crimes were winging back from Unta's towers. Duiker says that he's pleased to hear it and that he's out here in Hissar for research on the shipping of prisoners to the Otatero mines. Duiker and Malik have a conversation about mages being sent there by the old emperor. Duiker is studying whether or not the mages went mad due to the exposed Otatero dust or the lack of access to their warrens. The Wiccan soldiers became belligerent and started scaring dock workers to the point where the Hissar guard had to step in and hold the Wiccans at bay. 2 men arrived on the parapet. Duiker welcomed them, while Malik refused to acknowledge their presence. What a dick. Both men were from the 7th, a rough-looking captain and Culp, the last cadre mage of the 7th. Duiker tells Culp that his arrival proved to be timely. Culp scoffs and tells Duiker to fuck off, as he came up here to remain in one piece. Culp curses Coltane, as these Wiccan soldiers are his people, and Coltane's inability to stop the riot hasn't boded well for him. The captain agrees and continues to explain that half the Hissar guard saw their first blood facing Coltane, and with Coltane about to take command, he stops to spit and continues to say that it would not be a shame if Coltane and his Wiccan savages were cut down right here at the harbor docks. As far as the captain is concerned, Coltane is not needed in the 7th. Malik agrees and compares Coltane being here as a viper's nest, and that he was an odd choice. Duiker has watched the tension rising below, says that it's not such an odd choice. The Wiccan and the Hissar guard were lining up, and the battle between them was moments away. When Duiker turned around and noticed all 3 men were staring at him, begging for an explanation of his last comment. Duiker explains that Coltane united the Wiccan clans in an uprising against the Emperor. The Emperor had difficulty bringing Coltane to heel, but in old-school Emperor style, he had Coltane's loyalty. Culp barked, "How?" Duiker says that the Emperor rarely explained his successes. Anyway, Lucine held no affection for her predecessor's previous commanders. Coltane was left to rot, but the situation changed. Ajak Lorn was killed in Darujistan. High Fist Dujek and his army went renegade, effectively surrendering the Genebakan campaign, and with the year of the Dryjana, prophesized rebellion, and with Ajak Tavor untested. It's at this moment the captain figures out that Coltane has been sent here to command the 7th and squash the rebellion. Duiker chimes in that who better to squash a rebellion than one who has led one. Duiker saw a half-dozen swords flash and the Wiccans recoil in response, unsheathing their own swords. Duiker then observed a tall man who appeared to be a fierce warrior waving his own weapon above his head, encouraging the other Wiccan warriors. Swearing, Duiker asks, "Where the hell is Coltane?" The captain laughs his ass off and tells Duiker that the madman was Coltane. Feeling like an idiot, Duiker watches as Coltane calls for calm amongst the Wiccan warriors. Coltane then allowed the Hissar guards to saddle each horse and led them to the stables. Duiker says to the other men on the parapet that was nicely done. The captain blurts off that Coltane is a snake, and then quickly shuts up as he realized he spoke out of turn, not realizing the priest's place as high command. Duiker admits that he looks forward to meeting Coltane. Malik somewhat agrees. Man, I feel like I haven't had a long one in a long time.
That was a pretty lengthy one.
So, from what I've deduced, and granted, these are all new characters to us. Like, we have no idea who these people are. And from what I've understand, is Duiker is an imperial historian. High Fist Promquel is basically the High Fist of the Seven Cities for the Malazan Empire. Kind of like how Dujek was for the Genebakan campaign. And Malik Rel is High Fist Promquel's like representative there on behalf of him. So, but Malik Rel is I don't know what Gistal means, but he is a Gistal priest for the elder god of the seas, Mael.
Can I just say I do not like the name Malik because it is far too similar to Ralik.
Yeah, you were telling me about that when we were texting. Not gonna lie, I had to when his name came up, really make sure that I read it and not put in Ralik.
Right. I'm like, okay, is Ralik just playing like a dumb fucking game here and he changed one letter in his name? I'm like, oh, it's not him.
Maybe. But no. Ralik is, from what I understand, still in that Finnest house.
Right. But, I mean, I saw that name and you just kind of, like I told you before, like I did like a double take on that name.
Yeah, it's just Malik Rel, as confusing as that name may be and how similar it is, where he got is super alluring to me. Like, it kind of sounds like he became High Fist Promquel's Quail, I don't even know. His representative, like, one really quickly, and it kind of sounds like, based on some of the rumors, is that he misfortune befell to anyone who stood on his way to becoming at High Fist Promquel's side.
Sure, and by misfortune you mean he murdered them.
More than likely, that's what I'm.
that was what I thought. I'm like, oh, misfortune? Yeah, you just kind of cleared your own path. Which props, because if you want it, you got to work for it, man.
Right. And I just think it's funny that, before Coltane is really mentioned, Duiker, the imperial historian, is already questioning kind of like the politicalness of this move. He's wondering how the hell is this new fist going to understand the political gestures of contempt, especially in the Seven Cities, which we know from the end of the last book that the Seven Cities is no longer under Malazan control, which is why Lysine is so okay with using a commander from the Emperor's like reign, which it kind of sounds like in, traditional Emperor style, he didn't command fear, he commanded loyalty. So how much is Coltane really going to do what Empress Lysine orders?
Yeah, I don't know. I get the sense that Coltane's kind of a loose cannon. I mean, he seems like a badass.
Right.
But it almost seems like I kind of feel like he's like a young Whiskey Jack. Whiskey Jack, he's older now, right? Or I get the sense that he's a little bit older. He's wiser. Like, he's been through a lot of shit, right?
Right.
And so he knows better. But Coltane, like, obviously is an adept warrior, commander. He can fuck your shit up. But I get the feeling he's maybe a little bit younger and probably a little bit more reckless and willing to take a chance, where Whiskey Jack is gonna probably play it more safe and a little more conservative.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he you know who he reminds me of? And it's purely just based on his name. But Coladin from Wheel of Time.
He was a dickhead.
Yeah, he was a dickhead. I mean, just it like I said, purely based on the name. You know, Coltane, Coladin.
I gotcha. I follow you.
Yeah. But outside of that, you know, one of the I think it's interesting that Duiker already hates Malik Rel just based on like 4 conversations he's had with him since he's arrived. So I'm interesting to see, you know, what breeds from that dynamic. But I know that in one of their conversations, you know, Malik is asking the historian if caution is bred from distant culling. And I mean, the only real sense of culling that we got was from the prologue, right? So I'm not quite
So
sure.
far, yeah.
Right. I guess I'm just a little confused as to what is he being cautious because of the riots and because of the culling. He's being cautious, but again, I don't really know how that fits into the scenario. Is it just because he's cautious because of the distant culling, but not necessarily related to the situation? If that makes sense. Like, is that just something that he's you know being cautious about because of the culling? But also Malik makes the statement that no crimes have come back from Unta's towers. But I feel like those are related because Unta is where, you know, the beginning of the culling with the nobles happened. And I'm unclear if this is insinuating that Duiker was maybe supposed to be an Unta amongst the other called victims and somehow managed to be
Interesting.
the imperial historian. So does that mean he's on the right or wrong side of history? Like, did he just change his...
Depends how he writes it, I suppose.
Right. You know, so it's because we know that, you know, Heberick, right? He was also basically you know, a priest of uh the boar Fenner, and he wrote the truth. So I would assume that that would mean that if he's an imperial historian, that he is working to write the wrong history.
Or maybe it's just the right one as he sees it.
Right, yeah. I mean, it kind of sounds like, because it sounds like, you know, the reason that he's there is to, you know, check out prisoners who have access to warrens, essentially, at the Otaterral mines, and to kind of study whether it was the dust that made mages mad or go crazy, or if it was just the denial of warrens. So it doesn't even really seem like it's related to anything historical, so to speak, like the events that have caused all of these numerous situations, right? I think that he's maybe just picking and choosing something that maybe won't get him questioned.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, though, which do you think it's the Otateral mines or the lack of access to the warrens? I'm curious on your thoughts on that. Which one do you think is the problem?
I want to say that it's the lack of access to warrens.
I felt the same. Just because I feel like it's, I mean, at least from what we've seen so far, you know, Rallick got some sort of side effect from the Otateral dust, but we didn't really know what that was going to be. I mean, them using their warrens, they know what that's like. They know how to work it. And then just suddenly being stripped of that, it reminds me of being stilled, right? Or gentled. Again,
Right.
another Wheel of Time reference, but just, you know, you suddenly lose access to something that's an integral part of your life, and then it's gone. That would drive me crazy.
Right.
So I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to with it. That is definitely where I'm going to.
Nice.
Yeah. But also, there was in this conversation with Malik and Duiker, excuse me, they did talk about how he really couldn't get over there because there weren't any mages. And Malik was just like, well, there might be some on the slave ships. And Duiker. So I have a feeling based on that statement, that very small statement, that the the culled victims are essentially going to end up in Hissar or at the Otaterel mines. So
that's a good thought. I did not even think of that.
So I think that Felsen is going to be in Hissar, essentially.
And Heberick, and who was the other one to start with a B?
Bowden.
There we go.
Or Bowden.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that they are going to end up at the mines somehow, probably doing some type of labor or mining Otaterel dust, is my guess, which I would say is probably going to lead Paran and the bridge burners into Hissar.
Well, is this the first time we're going to say it for this book? We'll have to read and find out.
That's right. We'll have to read and find out.
I don't think we've said it yet.
No, I feel like it's a staple in each of our shows, which is fine. That's fine.
It's our shtick.
That's our shtick. Right. It's like Vince Vaughn in the annoying way he talks.
Oh, he's just from Chicago. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Then never mind.
It's not as bad as Boston or New York, though.
Boston. Open the draw.
Oh, God. Man, like Boston and Oklahoma, if those two places fell off the face of the earth, I would not be that sad. If anybody lives there, I'm sorry if I offended you, but Oklahoma's a shithole. And Boston, if I never had to hear anybody else speak from there again, it would be too soon.
Yeah.
It's harsh. It's harsh. I know.
Yeah. Now who's
I just can't. I'm an asshole. That's fine. I'm not even being passive aggressive about it. I'm just being aggressive about it.
That's fair. That's fair. I feel like most people would just know your opinion rather than guessing as to what you're thinking.
I mean, in my defense, have you been to Oklahoma before?
Never been.
You don't need to. It's a fucking dump.
Okay. All right. Cool.
There's nothing there worth going for.
Is it because they put peanuts in their Coke?
I don't know what they do there. It's probably like the Raraku Desert. It's just a bunch of wasted cities.
Oh, love how you brought that back around.
And they probably make a lot of meth because there's nothing else to do there.
That's fair. That's fair.
There's my rant on. I don't even want to call Oklahoma Midwest. It's the central United States. There's not enough tornadoes that could hit that place.
Well, I mean, it is Tornado Alley, so.
I know.
Maybe it's just.
Hopefully, we don't have any Oklahoma listeners.
Probably not. And if they did, they would probably, by the time they got to our abortion little segment, would unfollow us or cancel us.
If you're from Oklahoma, send me an angry tweet.
There you go. There you go. Wow. Damn, dude. Are you sure you're not like Icarium here? Like, are you trying to converge of some kind on Oklahomians?
Well, I'm not bored because I'm talking to you about a book that I like talking to you about. So
that's fair. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, we'll move on from your Oklahomian tangent.
All right. Sounds good. It's probably time.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess as far as this section is concerned, I feel like sprinkled in with some of the uprising that was happening on the docks and like, the politicalness. God damn it. Malik. Rel. Fuck.
It probably won't be the last time that happens.
Probably not. He I already don't like him based on he just seems like an arrogant douchebag, and dangerous at that too. Like you get in his way, like who knows what the fuck's gonna happen. So I don't really care for him already. And Duiker, I'm kind of curious as to see like where he goes. He kind of seems like he's a between the fence kind of dude, and maybe just on the wrong side, kind of maybe in a cowardless fashion, so to speak, on the wrong side because he doesn't want to die or be called.
I'm glad you had the section with his name in there because I wasn't sure how to pronounce it, but I like your pronunciation on it.
Oh, Duiker?
Yeah. It was throwing me off. Oh. I don't know if it's a little bit of like dyslexia, but I kept thinking like Dukier.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I could see where you're coming up with that.
Just reading it, my eyes mix that up a little bit, but I like yours.
Okay, cool. I guess we discussed Coltane, and how everybody seemed to have questions about how he's going to, one, deal with kind of the subliminal political contempt that is thrown his way, as well as where his allegiances are, and the fact that nobody who's talking about him likes him outside of Duiker, who seems to be rather impressed with the fact that he was able to kind of align, the Hissar guards and these Wiccan savages, so to speak.
I think it's because Coltane, if you think about it, is an orc, and he's got two big fucking axes, like D&D style. He's an orc. Like I can just imagine him like bloodlusting or going berserk and killing everybody.
What makes you think he's an orc? Just because of that?
Like, I don't think he's an orc, but like that's like the vibe I get. Like he's just like I'm thinking like D&D or like you pick your class or be like a paladin or a mage or an orc. Like I feel like Coltane's an orc. He's just a warrior.
Gotcha.
Like, he's just gonna go crazy and kill shit.
Okay, fair enough. But I mean, I don't really have anything else to add to this very info dump of a section, as well as my first impressions of these characters.
All right. Well, I'll take it away here. I managed to summarize 10 pages or so into 2.5 or so. It was probably the longest section I've had to summarize so far. I guess I don't know how many. It's probably up there for both of us, but
yeah,
we get some familiar characters, so that it was good to feel a little bit back to home with our Gardens of the Moon characters.
Absolutely. Well, take her away, sir.
All right. As the Skara Isles were left behind, the boat headed south in the Kansu Sea. If the wind held, they would reach the Erliton coast in 4 hours. Fiddler wasn't happy. Erliton coast. 7 cities. He hated this continent the first time he visited, and hates it even more now as he spat stomach bile over the side of the boat. Crocus asked if he was doing any better, and Fiddler wanted to punch his dumb fucking face, but he could see he was genuinely concerned. Kalam laughed and told him that Fiddler and water don't mix. He was greener than the flying monkey. Fiddler opened an eye and saw that he had the monkey looking at him, and he told Moby to go away, though the monkey seemed to have attached himself to Fiddler like a stray dog. Fiddler thought about how they never did things the easy way. He thought about how far they had already come, but how much further they still had to go. He wished that all the seas would dry up. They had feet for walking, after all, not flippers. Even still, where they were going to be crossing by foot was a waterless shithole where people only smiled to let you know they were going to kill you. Lovely. He thought about his friends he left behind for this journey. He wished he could be marching with them, but realized we would be marching into a holy war, and those were no fun. At the same time, he thought the squad was all he had known for years, and now he had Kalam for company. Kalam, who calls the lands ahead home, and Kalam, who smiles before he kills. He also wondered what kind of plan Quickben and Kalam had been brewing that he didn't know about yet. Absalar spoke up, saying she saw more flying fish. Kalam said something big from the deep water must be chasing them. Fiddler sat up to look over the side of the boat, and Moby cuddled in his lap. They watched the fish as big as a man's arm leap 100 yards away from the boat. Fiddler wondered what the fuck was making the fish do this. Kalam said there shouldn't be anything in the Kansu Sea that would make them behave this way. But in Seeker's Deep, there were Denrabi. Great, says Fiddler. Just fucking great. Crocus asks what that is. It's like an 80 pace, or we'll say roughly 200 feet, or to put it in terms that I will understand, and maybe others will, 200 feet is the length of a hockey rink. So a 200-foot centipede, yep, that's nightmare fuel. They'll wrap up a whale or a boat, and then they blow all the air out of their armored skin and sink to the bottom of the sea with their prey. But don't worry, they're really rare, and they're never seen in shallow water. Well, Crocus says he sees one now. This was one big asshole. Fiddler says 80 paces if it was cut in half. Kalam tells Crocus to ready the sails. They're running for it and going west. Fiddler got his crossbow ready. He had a snack for it if it decided they looked like an appetizing treat. Absalar looked like a ghost, as pale as she was. Fiddler told her he had a surprise for it. Absalar said she remembered. As she spoke, the monster saw them and headed right towards them. As it drew near, Kalam said it was no ordinary monster and that it was soul-taken. Crocus didn't know what that was, and they told him it was a shapeshifter. A voice filled all of their heads and told them that for witnessing its passage, they all must die. Lovely, again. But it told them not to worry too much because it would be honorable and not defile their bodies by eating them. It's so very nice. Fiddler said that was kind, as he loaded a crossbow bolt with a grapefruit-sized ball of clay at the end of it. Kalam told the soul-taken that they cared nothing for its passage and to be on its way. It only replied that it would be merciful when killing them. Fiddler said it had been warned as he aimed the crossbow and blew its fucking head off. Things settled down. Moby climbed back onto Fiddler's lap. He asked Kalam what the hell that was about, why was there a soul taken in the Kansu Sea, and why was it going in the same direction as them. Kalam didn't know. Fiddler says Quickben would. Replying, Kalam says, but he's not here, so it's a mystery we'll have to deal with, and hopefully we don't run into any more. Soon they found the Erliton coast, and Absalar thought she could see horse riders. Kalam counted 6, and the second rider had an imperial pennon. A messenger and a lance guard headed for Erliton. Crocus asked if something was wrong. Kalam thought he was sharp, but told him that it was hard to say. They knew they had been spotted, but what had they actually seen? Just some fisher folk? A family heading into the city for a taste of civilization? Kalam said there's a village not far away. Crocus needs to keep an eye out for the mouth of a creek. The houses will be just inland. He asks Fiddler how his memory is. Fiddler says his memory is good enough for a native, which is what Kalam is. Fiddler wanted to know how far out from the city they were on foot. Kalam told him only 10 hours. The plan was to sail into the Holy City's harbor anonymously. It was likely that whatever information the messenger was delivering didn't pertain to them at all. They had been extremely careful in not giving anything away on their journey. Worst case scenario was that 2 possible deserters, a Genebacan woman and a Genebacan woman, had arrived on Malazan land. Hardly earth-shattering news. Crocus spotted the mouth of the stream. They took the boat to the shore, and Apsalar gave Fiddler a smile, which seemed to catch him off guard. He tried to remember she was another woman once, but she was a killer and the knife of a god, and she's with Crocus now. Damn, that boy has all the luck. He thought he'd been at sea for far too long. He thought 10 hours on foot, and then he'd be at Erliton. He'd have a bath and a shave, and then a Kansuan girl, and then the rest of the night to relax. Crocus asked if he was excited. Fiddler said he didn't even know the half of it. Crocus asked Fiddler if he was here during the conquest, when Fiddler fought for the other side, the 7 Holy Faladan, and the Talan Imus march for the Emperor. Fiddler cut him off. He didn't want to be reminded. He said all wars were terrible, but that one was uglier than most. Crocus kept on, asking if he was in the company that chased Quickben across the holy desert Raraku, and Kalam was the guide. But he and Quickben were planning on betraying you, except Whiskey Jack had that all figured out already, right? Fiddler shot a look to Kalam and says, one night with a jug of rum, and the boy knows more than any historian alive. He told Crocus to forget whatever he had heard. The past is already on their trail, and there's no point in making it any easier. Crocus presses more and says, if the 7 cities are so dangerous, why didn't they just head straight down to Quan Tali and find Apsalar's father? Why are they sneaking around on the wrong continent? Kalam irritatedly tells him that it isn't that simple. Crocus wants to know why. He thought that's what the purpose of the whole journey was anyways. He held Apsalar's hand and said that he heard them say they owed it to her, but he thought now they only used it as an excuse to come back to the empire they were outlawed from. Crocus says they have a right to know. They are putting them in harm's way, and they don't even know the danger, and that isn't right. Kalam tells Fiddler to give him a list. Fiddler says the Empress wants Darujistan. Does Crocus agree? Crocus shook his head in agreement. Fiddler says what the Empress wants, she usually gets. She tried to take his city once, and it cost her Adjunct Lorn, 2 Imperial Demons, High Fist Dujek's loyalty, and the Bridge Burners. A pretty hefty price tag. Crocus speaks up and wants to know what does that have to do with them. Fiddler tells him not to interrupt him. Darujistan got away once, but it won't next time, if there is a next time. Crocus says, why wouldn't there be a next time if she gets what she wants? Fiddler asks if he's loyal to his city, if he would do anything to protect it. Fiddler looked at Crocus and said it was time. He was going after her. Crocus was confused and didn't understand. Apsalar dumbed it down for him and said he was going to try and kill her. Crocus thinks this is insane, batshit crazy, and suicidal even. Did he expect their help? Apsalar said she remembers. Remember that Kalam was a Faladan dagger, and the claw gave him command of a hand. Kalam is a master assassin, and Quickben is interrupted by Crocus shouting that Quickben is 3,000 leagues away. Fiddler says distance is irrelevant. Quickben is their shaved knuckle in the hole. What? Crocus doesn't know what the fuck that even means. Don't worry, it's a gambling reference. But basically, Quickben can be there in an instant. So that's the plan. Kalam is going to try and kill the Empress, but it takes a lot of planning, and that planning starts here. If you want Darujistan free forever, it starts here. Crocus still doesn't understand. Why 7 cities? Wasn't the Empress in Quan Tali? Yes, but 7 cities is about to rebel. Fiddler looked back to the shore and thought that's what he hated most about this plan. Chasing one of Quickben's crazy-ass ideas while the countryside burns. As the boat came to shore, Fiddler stepped onto dry land and thought, now it has begun. Damn.
Yeah. Great work, dude. That was a good summary.
That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. As much fun as I had writing it, it was a lot of fun to read it too.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I would agree with you. It was nice to kind of get back to characters that we're familiar with. But I thought it was cool how we get even more perspective from Fiddler, because in Gardens of the Moon, he's kind of a secondary character, but in this section, he's definitely the focus. You get his inner thoughts, you get his experience. Like everything about this is told through his eyes.
Yeah, yeah. It was neat getting his perspective. I don't think this this part of the chapter maybe would have had as much weight if it came from like Crocus or Apsalar.
Right. Yeah. Because I feel like this section is definitely information heavy, but it's more familiar information, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I kind of felt like going after the Empress was going to happen at some time in Gardens of the Moon, and it never did, or not to the extent that they're talking about here, anyways.
Right.
That they're gonna try to fucking assassinate her. So to get that, I don't know if payoff is the right word, but to get that plot point early,
Right. Yeah.
I think that's going to be probably a pretty heavy driving factor the rest of the book.
Well, and it gives us some clarity. Remember in the epilogue where in Gardens of the Moon, where Quick Ben is like, Whiskey Jack's not gonna like this, but it kind of seems like the goal is definitely to help the Seven Cities rebel and then eventually get to Lucene. So whether that happens in this book or 5 books from now, I have no idea, but that's kind of where I feel like the setup is starting to take place here, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I think so a lot. Yeah, and even I mean, like I said, this section alone was like a quarter of the fucking chapter.
Right,
Uh,
right.
and so I summarized it as best I could. But man, again, just the descriptions, the writing is just so good. Like I can't compare to it. But this one was a lot of fun. This part of the book, just this chapter was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just because you kind of, I mean, there was so much to it. You had some action, you had some dialogue, but it wasn't just a giant battle where everybody's killing everybody. It was focused.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I like how in I think 3 out of 4 chapters there's new creatures that are being introduced. Not so much in the last section with Duiker and Malakarel, but there's more kind of this world building starting to kind of peek through, but as well as like there's definitely setup for something. Like this whole chapter is set up in for different people at the very beginning of things, and I'm really looking forward to reading on. But I think
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah. But I don't remember Fiddler joining them at the end of Gardens of the Moon. I thought it was just going to be no, he was. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, he was on the boat.
Right. Yep. But
Boats and hoes.
boats and hoes. But Moby, I did not expect Moby to be along.
I don't know why he was there, but it was just fun because he's like a little fucking lap dog. Like just I'm gonna cuddle on your lap. Give me the
Right.
cuddles.
Yeah. Like a cat that won't leave your lap. But yeah, but I mean I understand. I mean it makes sense, right? Like this was Mammoth's pet, so why wouldn't Crocus bring him?
Yeah, you're right.
So I mean it I guess kind of makes me again feel bad for Mammoth's demise, so to speak. He kind of goes along the story of sadness, right, for Crocus, but it kind of also
Yeah.
seems like there's some happiness here too. Like it seems from Fiddler's perspective that he's kind of eyeing Apsalar a little bit, kind of lustfully, but then has to rein himself in.
Which is a it's kind of gross, right? I mean, because we know
Yeah.
Absolar's like a kid.
Right.
I mean, she's. I don't think she's an adult in the sense that she's like 18, and like it even sounds gross just saying like legal in that terms.
Right. Yeah.
But I get the sense she's, like 16, 17, something like that.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I guess we kind of called it. I kind of had some suspicions towards the end of Gardens of the Moon if they were gonna like be a couple, so to speak. And I guess that's not really like explicitly said here, but it kind of sounds like they're together.
He definitely cares about her.
Yeah, but
Uh, uh, Switching gears a little bit, I would love to see your drawing of a what the hell was it
and
called?
Robbie.
Denrabi. Yeah.
Yep.
The only thing I can picture in my mind is a fucking 200-foot silverfish thing that you find on the wall in your basement that's got 10 million legs, and you just want to burn your house down after you see it.
Right.
And
yeah.
I just get goosebumps thinking about it because they just gross me out, and just if I will get instant goosebumps if I see one, and it takes about everything I have to not just yell at it like a little bitch, and I find a shoe or something and about put a hole in the wall.
There are. I just did an image search for Denrabi, and there's not a lot. They just look like water centipedes. But I think that I could.
You should send one in our little chat here. I want to see it, or if it's easier just to text it or whatever.
No,
I'd
yeah.
be curious to see it, but I bet I would love to see your take on it.
Yeah, I definitely think that I could probably fuck this up a little bit more. But I just thought, yeah, because that's what I do.
Like, you're gonna make it worse?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
we're going down that road then.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is my problem with like mainstream horror movies, is that they're just not fucked up enough,
Oh man, speaking of like horror shit, before we started recording tonight, Kelly, my wife and I, we were watching the new season of American Horror Story. We started that, and in one of the commercials, they had, God, what was it? I don't know if it was a movie or a series, but I can't even remember what it's called. But it seemed to be focused around social media to some extent. And like, you see this thing, and like, I don't know if it makes you kill other people or what, but like the thing was creepy looking. I don't want to say it was a clown mask, but it was pretty fucked up looking. I want to say cut or something.
I like fucked up shit, but yeah, I mean, I can take an attempt at a Denrabi here.
I just image searched it as well on my end.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah. I would. Yep. Just nuke the planet, man. Fuck it. That's about all there is to it.
And I mean, Fiddler just essentially just destroys this in one fall swoop. So I guess it just goes to show that this bolt with what I'm assuming is just a cannon filled with fucking explosives in it,
Yeah, it seems like it's got a bunch of gunpowder in it or something along those lines.
Yeah. But did you catch how they were like, what was he doing out here, and why was he so protective of being seen? Do you have any speculation as to what that was?
Yeah, it was probably heading towards the same place as Relandorus.
Exactly.
It was just crossing. It just, whoever this thing was just had a sea to cross first. But
right.
I think it all relates back to the convergence, right?
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going to go. But
we're going to get a big gathering of these types.
Right. So I think it's cool that like already in the first chapter, we already understand a little bit more than the character, So it's kind of cool to have a little bit of that perspective. But also, what I thought was cool is, to me, the Gardens of the Moon map and now the map at the beginning of Deadhouse Gates is starting to make sense. So, from what I understand, is the map that is in Deadhouse Gates is like southwest of the Jenna Bakken campaign, and Ikito Khan is south of uh the map in Deadhouse Gates, the seven cities. So
I just need a fucking globe. Give me a globe with all this shit laid out on it for the whole series. Just have the land on it. I don't need to know anything else, but I just want to see a globe with all this shit on it.
that would actually be really cool. A Malazan globe.
Have you seen some on? I'll have to see if I can find it on Twitter, but somebody's done one for like Wheel of Time.
They've like made it into a globe.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to do some digging, and there might even be one that's kind of for real or Game of Thrones also.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I just thought it was cool because I mean, again with Gardens of the Moon, you don't really you have an understanding based on the map, but again, Malaz City and Mouse Quarter, Ikito Khan, that was one of those things that I remember reading when going through that book. I'm like, I don't see any of these on the map. But at the end, it's revealed that, pretty much continents away. And now it just makes the scope of this environment so much more like vast. And I'm super digging it. I'm like nerding out about it.
Yeah, well, the map we have here for this book is, I mean, I feel like it's a much bigger scope than Gardens of the Moon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But going back to my point of just the whole map tangent is that the city Irliton, from what I understand based on the map, is just north of the Pan'potsun Odhan. So, which we know that's where Icarium and Mappo are, and they're in this basin, this desert basin, this ancient holy desert, where convergence of D'Ivers and Soul Taken are headed. We've got Fiddler, Kalam, Crocus, and Apsalar all traveling south to this city that Mappo and Icarium were potentially like recognized in. And we've got this Denrabi also making his way there. So again, it's just kind of bringing everybody kind of into the same type of area,
Yeah. So it makes me wonder, like, chapter 2, are we gonna meet new faces again, or are we gonna have the players that we've seen already, or is it gonna be some of both?
I think it's going to be a mixture. I think it's going to be a mixture of continuing on with the characters we met in chapter 1, our reoccurring characters, probably even more of our reoccurring characters. I would imagine Paran and the Bridge Burners and Whiskey Jack are probably going to come up hopefully soon, or somewhere in this book, I would hope. Or again, maybe it's just these events unfolding, and it's possible that Whiskey Jack and Paran may not come up until Memories of Ice. I have no idea. I could totally see that happening too.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a little bit of faith that not a little bit of faith, a lot of faith that things will play out as they need to. But you read a book like Gardens of the Moon and you get attached to these characters, and then if you go a whole book without seeing them, I mean that kind of sucks. I know you haven't read A Song of Ice and Fire, but in the 4th book, A Feast for Crows, you get the story for half the characters. You get the whole story for half the characters.
Oh.
And then a dance, or God, what the fuck is the 5th book called?
I thought it was.
I can't even remember. A Feast for Crows is the fifth one, or fourth one. Sorry, god damn it. Whatever the fifth one is, I can't remember off the top of my head. You get the other half, the characters, their full story. So between those two books, they occupy the same time, but you're just seeing two different halves.
Oh, okay.
And this is it going to be something similar?
I mean, maybe. I guess I'm just too curious. I mean, we know Whiskey Jack's not dead from Gardens of the Moon, and just taking in consideration the scope of these books, like, I guess I'm not too worried if I don't see him in this book, because I know that they basically take place shortly thereafter, is what I'm assuming, after each other, you know?
Right. A Dance of Dragons, I think that's the fifth one. I don't know why I could not think of that right now.
Well, I mean, you had it right. You were starting to say a dance, and then you just gave up.
Probably having a seizure.
But I guess,
I mean, things will intertwine as they need to, but
yeah.
Just going back to, I grew really attached to basically all the characters. Even the character I probably liked the least in that book was probably Lucine, but now we're not going to have Lucine, and we may not even have all the same characters. We're going to get probably a slew of new characters. I don't want to, I guess, be overwhelmed with and trying to keep everything straight.
Yeah.
Who's who, who's with who, that type of thing.
That's fair, and I feel like that might be a struggle for current readers, but I feel like the way that we have to present this material is going to allow us to hone in on that, and I think we'll probably have the same level of understanding as someone maybe rereading it, because of the way that we're doing it. Maybe not quite as much as someone who's rereading it, but I mean, we're essentially picking out things that we know nothing about, but at the same time, we're going into it with a fine-tooth comb. So I mean, I guess I'm not worried about it, but I mean, again, the beauty of this podcast is that we get to play off each other, and even if there's a connection that I'm not making that you've totally picked up on, then odds are likely that will kind of fill in those gaps, and vice versa. But also, if there's something that we both don't understand, I've come to kind of learn through this experience, and especially reading Gardens of the Moon, that may or less point to the direction of things are yet to come, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it is a fun experience going through this with you, and it's kind of one of those things now where, like, I don't want to read another book, like, without doing it with you.
Exactly. We've only got 9 and 23 chapters to go.
8.
Yeah, right. Yep. 8 and 20. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm tired.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We're doing this on like a Saturday afternoon.
Right. Not necessarily on Thursday night.
Right.
But I guess to maybe bring some information closer to wrapping up, how did you feel about, Crocus and the whole, now he's a historian because of some drunk dude, kind of giving away a little bit of Fiddler and Kalam's and even Quick Ben's history? I mean, that's not revealed to us, the reader, but Crocus definitely has a bigger picture of these three characters. What is your interpretation of that?
Well, who the hell was he listening to? Who is telling him all this stuff is kind of, where my mind goes. Who knows all this stuff? And who's telling him? Because I kind of feel like maybe Fiddler and Kalam probably don't want that info getting out, which is kind of why they're like, hey, just fucking forget it, right?
Right.
So I don't know, other than who's got this info is the big thing I'm coming away from with it.
I mean, I feel like it was because I mean, the Seven Cities, Fiddler and Kalam. I mean, this is their hometown, right? So it's either one of two scenarios. They were at some like what the fuck are those called? Bars, really, an inn or some type of something on their way to their current destination. And it's either Fiddler and Kalam got too drunk and started spilling the beans, or somebody who knew of them was telling Crocus all of their adventures without them knowing. You know what I mean? Like Crocus was sitting at a bar and talking to a drunk about Fiddler and Kalam and just kind of seeing what this unknown drunk person knows, you know?
But doesn't that seem suspicious to you? Why does this random person know this information about Kalam and Fiddler and Quick Ben?
I think that they're really tied to the history, right? Which now that I'm thinking about it kind of ties back to the epigraph for the subbook. Think about it. Swimming in memories. So
all that tells me is they have some ties to it.
Right, exactly. But I'm definitely curious to find out more about some of their adventures, because like we know that Quick Ben used to be, from what I understand, a priest of Shadow Throne of some kind. So I'm wondering if it kind of sounds like whatever Shadow Throne's play was, clearly still against the Malazan Empire, Kalam and Fiddler were chasing him through this desert for God knows what, you know what I mean? And how they came to be on each other's sides, I guess that's still kind of a mystery. But it's kind of nice how some of these layers are starting to kind of like smudge off a little bit as to like these characters' histories. So I want more.
I'm sure we'll get more. Man, and you're like Quick Ben, we knew he was a badass in the last book, but now he could be anywhere in an instant. Like he's like a total badass now, right?
Well, I mean, he can operate 7 warrens, so he's got to be
right.
Pretty accessible.
And if he's 3,000 leagues away, and it's like a non-issue, like he could just be there in a snap of a finger. Like, okay, who else can do that?
Right, exactly. But
and if you're curious, 3,000 leagues is 10,357 miles.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay, so let's just
that's like back and forth United. That's like Forrest Gump running from coast to coast 4 times.
So we'll just say, what's 10,000 miles away from Minneapolis?
There we go.
Just for reference.
I'm going to say the Middle East.
I'm trying to Google this, and I don't know how well it's going to work. Okay, well, Minneapolis is located 3,110 miles south of the North Pole.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That puts it into perspective.
There you go. Exactly.
How many miles from the North Pole to the equator?
Airline, it is a little over. It's about 6,300 miles.
So basically, it's like 80% of the Earth.
Yeah, it's like going basically from the North Pole to most of the way to the South Pole.
Right, almost to Antarctica. That's how far they've traveled. So that makes sense. Like, they basically have been traveling this entire year. So I would assume that Crocus has, again, he seems very curious in this particular section, being that this is the first he's shown up in this book. So I can only imagine that, these are still newer people to him. It's not like the Krupp and the Murillo and the Ralix. He's not familiar with these guys. So of course you're going to ask questions, right? Like, especially as you get nearer to where they grew up, right? Or their stomping grounds, so to speak. I mean, he seems to have a curious tendency, which I think is what is happening here. And Fiddler and more so Fiddler and Kalam are a little bit annoyed at all of his damn questions, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a kid who won't shut up when you're in a car ride, 13 hours away.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Right, yeah. Exactly. So, but I also really enjoy how Fiddler put it to Crocus with the whole, hey, we get that we're not really here to do what we said we were here to do, but at the end of the day, like he really puts it into perspective for Crocus. And I thought that was it was very well done. It was beautiful. Like I can imagine myself as Crocus and like totally like, oh yeah, that makes so much logical sense.
Yeah, I liked the plan, and like I said, I thought that was something we were going to get in Gardens of the Moon, and it just didn't play out. But obviously, like that would have been a pretty big thing to introduce in that book, and that book would have been probably quite a bit more massive than it already was if you're going to incorporate that.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of a big cliffhanger to leave at the very end of the book, you know. So I think it was good the way that he did it. It feels right. I'm not. I don't feel so jarred between these two books. So I was honestly expecting to be. I thought it was going to be way more different, you know.
I didn't really know what to expect, but I mean, so far, I don't feel like it's out of place at all. And obviously, who would I be to say, anyways? I didn't write this book, but it seems like a logical progression, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I really love the way that he made Crocus kind of understand, and from what we know, Crocus is a teenager, so he's questioning everything, right? Like he was told one thing, he's expecting this, right? He obviously cares for Apsalar, so all he wants to do is see that come to fruition, and now he's just kind of maybe not upset but annoyed that they're veering off into a different route, and Fiddler just so very nicely brings it back home.
Right.
I mean, honestly, those everything that we talked about with this section is I can't think of anything else to really talk about. I feel like there was just so much. So
I guess the only other thing I would add is, and it feels so weird to like talk about this, like you must think I'm on drugs. I don't know, because like I've never felt this way like reading a book, but the section 2 that I covered, I got all these like orange colors as far as like what I felt and saw, and this one, I mean, with an ocean and a sea, it was just vibrant blues and light colors, and it seemed like such a stark contrast, and it's not like black against white, but just going from that like faded, like rust feeling dark orange to a vibrant blue. I like that a lot.
Well, do you think that kind of pertains to the situations that these characters are in? Because like that's a beautiful point. Like that was, damn, I didn't even fucking see that coming. Like that was great.
I mean, an ocean and a desert are. I mean, I feel like they're two completely opposite things, and they're also very much the same thing. I mean, if you flood a bunch of water into a desert, you've got an ocean, and if you take all the water out of an ocean, you've got a desert.
Right. Right, which kind of goes back to the epigraph a bit, right?
Yeah. But I don't know, just again, looking at this book cover and just how, the colors on it, it felt a little surprising to get, and again, like feeling a color is not something that I like do. But reading that section, it was very much something I felt.
Yeah, no, that's great. I like that. I feel like there's some symbolism to it, but I can't quite put my finger on it.
I'm not smart enough to, so I won't. I'll just point. I'll point that out, and that's about as far as I'll go.
Don't be an Animander rake. Give yourself some credit.
I am an Animander Rake.
There you go.
I'm
You're
7 feet tall. I do not have black skin. I do have blonde hair.
Yeah, that would be bad.
I also don't have a 6-foot sword that holds people inside of it. But man, you know what? I don't even know if I would want that. Like, if I killed somebody, why would I want to drag them around with me?
Maybe that's just another curse. Maybe that's going along the lines of a map or a Icarium situation.
I don't know. I'm just thinking about that. Like, if I killed somebody, I fucking want you to be gone. I don't want to have your soul in my sword. Get away from me.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's fair.
Random.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like these tangents. But yeah, I guess I don't have anything else to say about this chapter outside of it was really good, and I'm very excited to be able to read chapter 2.
I will probably not read this chapter tonight since it's 10:30, but hopefully I'll probably read a chunk of it Saturday morning when I go to donate plasma, but we've got hockey games to go to Friday and Saturday night, so that's what I'll be doing with my weekend.
Gotcha.
So we'll have to find out when we record with Mora.
Yep, and I mean the cool thing is we'll get to not necessarily discuss Gardens of the Moon, but we'll get to discuss Gardens of the Moon and some of the things that we learned in this chapter, and even the second one if we can read it before Saturday, which I'm based on what you just said, probably not so much.
I might get through a chunk, but I don't know that I'll get through the whole thing. But that is exciting for us. It will be our first time as a guest on somebody else's show.
Guest.
That'll be cool.
Smiley's
podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be fun to reconnect with Mora, and I think her partner's name is Lee, that she is co-hosting with. From what I understand about Mora, they are currently through reading Dragon Reborn.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be kind of cool because I'm sure some of the conversations may end up in that route, which is totally cool. But yeah, I guess yeah, I think it's time to not Minnesota goodbye it.
Well, we'll call it good. We'll call it good here then, buddy, and we'll talk here in basically a day and a half.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
All right. Well, you have a good night, sir.
All right, take care, dude.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.